as Aida Cruises makes the move to resume sailing in August. They've released their health and safety protocols for sailing. And my question is, who's cruising like this? I could be overreacting. Also, yesterday, a bombshell from the Foreign Office in the UK putting a hamper on UK cruising and the stocks. Wow. All this and more on today's episode of the Lido Loca Cruise Show. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Glad to have you here. My name's Tony. I'm your host. If you enjoy that cruising and travel content, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. All right, let me tell you what we're going to get into today. But before we get too far into it, let me hit you up with a recommendation. Last night, I pulled together my friend Don Terrace, my buddy Bruce Frommert, so Don's Family Vacations, traveling with Bruce, really just to take an hour to talk about what's been going on in the cruise news. We all work on the news independently, and just a really cool session of getting together and just talking about cruise news, really about what's going on, what the future of cruising looks like. I will leave a link in the description and a link above right here to that video, so after you get through this one, check that out. I'll leave it at the end also. But yeah, some really interesting nuggets there and some stuff that's got me thinking today. But what I stumbled across this morning in my research is that the website Cruise Industry News, a good one to check if you like to follow the cruise news, what they've done is they've taken the new health protocols from Aida and they put them in a nice bulleted list. And so what we're going to do for the main section of the show today, we're going to go through that list and just ask, would you do this? Would you not do that? It's very interesting. Again, why are we looking at what's going on in Europe, what's going on in Asia to determine cruising for North America? Like it or not, this is the test bed. If this goes well over there, hopefully it bodes well here. So I think it's worth a look, and I'm interested to see what your feedback is. Is this something that you would do? But before we do that, let's take a quick look at the stocks, and I do have one big cruise news story before we get into the Aida stuff. Stocks took a beating yesterday. The cruise stocks are going to continue to be volatile. I already mentioned the conversation between Don and Bruce. Really good financial conversation toward the end of the hour last night from Bruce talking about the stocks. But yeah, everything went south yesterday. Carnival went from $15.83 down to $14.58. That's a reduction of over $1. Royal Caribbean, this one moves because it's got a bigger number to start with. It went from $50.91 to $47.11, and NCL went from $16.22 down to $15.20. So big movers yesterday in the negative direction for cruise stocks. I asked Bruce very specifically, do you think we'll see $8 cruise stocks again? He feels like there will be. So a really good explanation there. If you're into the finance, check that out. And then the big story that came out of the UK yesterday, UK opening back up for international travel very soon. The Foreign Office in the UK, their job responsible for protecting and promoting British interests worldwide. They're the organization, the governmental organization in the UK that has something to say about cruising. In March, they put out a warning. It's very similar to the State Department warnings here in the United States. They put out a warning saying that anyone 70 or older should not go on a cruise ship. Now, as foreign travel begins to happen again in the UK, they dropped the big old bomb yesterday that, yeah, you shouldn't cruise at all. Basically, that's what they said. Everybody should not cruise at all. They should not go on a cruise. And this is a challenge because there are companies that are getting ready to restart European cruises, restart UK cruises, and the UK market is going to be one of those markets that helps cruising recover. And now you have this government warning, this government issue saying you should not cruise. It doesn't sound like it's prohibiting people from cruising, but their stance is you should not cruise. So that's going to affect things like cruise insurance, travel insurance. Who knows, for employment over there in the UK, I don't know if going on a cruise when they tell you not to go on a cruise, if that can affect your employment. But either way, it landed like a lead balloon. The Cruise Line Association over there in the UK pushing back, saying this is super vague. Why are we being targeted? It's not good. And so that was the big news yesterday from the UK. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. There is some language in the warning that talks about continuing to work with the cruise lines. So some people speculate that maybe this warning won't be in place long. But as for now, they're saying do not go on a cruise ship. UK. How about that? But let's look at the Aida regulations. Again, I've got this from Cruise Industry News, very well distilled down into bullet points. Let's run through them real quick and see whether we like them, whether we do not like them. Who could cruise like this? I probably could cruise like this, maybe, but I'd be interested to see what you say. So just keep your ears open and think about this in the context of North American cruising. Okay, pre-cruise. The sailing will feature all sea days and operated at reduced capacity. So no ports. That's a big one for people right away. I could do that. I like the sea days. Each guest will provide health information and risk increasing factors related to COVID-19 prior to travel and check-in. I would go get a COVID-19 test at my local drugstore as long as it's not $1 million, and I would provide that to the cruise line. I'm okay with that. Before check-in, the body temperature of every guest is measured without contact. A team of doctors is available to clarify symptoms or other information, and if necessary, a COVID-19 test can also be carried out. That seems like that's going to happen. So they're going to take your temperature at the port, and if you seem a little bit sketchy, they're going to have doctors there to ask you even more questions and maybe even give you a test. So that's good that you're not just getting straight turned away. If a guest lives in an area in Germany with 50 new infections per 100,000 residents in the last 14 days, that guest must present a recent, not older than 48-hour negative COVID-19 test prior to boarding. So they're going to be looking at where the outbreaks are, and they're going to be comparing you to where you come from, and if the infection rate is high, you might have some extra stuff to do. Could be a hassle, but I understand it. Check-in will be staggered as guests will reserve their time slots for check-in on the day of arrival and check-out on the day of departure. They're going to try to do social distancing by assigning people times. I get that. If a guest is denied boarding, the trip can be rebooked prior to October the 30th, 2020. So if you go through and jump through all these hoops and you still can't board, your recourse is to rebook a cruise. Looks like you'll have a couple months to do that. All right, in the pre-cruise, nothing really jumps out to me there. That seems like that's going to be standard going forward. We talked about this with the news guys last night. How are you going to make sure that these test results are valid? How are you going to make sure the doctor's notes are valid? But I'm sure they'll have a process for that. All right, nothing keeps me from cruising in the pre-cruise. Onboard. Guests and crew must be at least 1.5 meters away from other people. Physical distancing. If minimal distance cannot be maintained, mouth and nose protection is mandatory for guests and crew. No face mask protection is required in the outer areas of the ships, in restaurants and bars on the square, or fitness equipment, and during sport courses. Guests can use both fabric mask and medical protective mask and must supply their own mask. However, masks will be available for purchase on board. Cha-ching! All cabins will be cleaned daily according to the dual principle of clean and sanitize. In addition to the normal cleaning process, surfaces are disinfected, and all vacuum cleaners now have a HEPA filter. That's HEPA cool. For dining, no face masks are necessary at tables. So a face mask-free dining experience. There will be no self-service buffets. Buffet restaurants will feature breakfast and lunch a la carte and 3-course dinner menus. So it's going to be like another dining room. Restaurant seats for all meals must be reserved no later than 3 days before the start of the trip. So you're going to reserve your table, and that's where you'll have to eat. It seems like there. Aida did not comment on bar service, but it is believed all bar seats have been removed. Interesting. Aida does not have traditional show lounge, but instead it uses its atrium for most entertainment, giving it an advantage as it enables the artists to keep enough distance from each other and from the guests. Aida, however, is seeking guests to wear mouth and nose protection before, during, and after the events. The disco will be closed for the time being, and Aida will not have pool parties, according to the line. The company spa is open, but the sauna area remains closed. Spa capacity will be significantly limited. The gym is open with an increased minimum distance of 2.5 meters between guests and reduced capacity. Aida said it has reduced the number of workout machines. Cleaning frequency will be removed. The pools on board and the water slides are open under increased security measures. The number of people per pool will be limited as well. The slot machines in the casino will operate. The shops will be open at a limited capacity. So really, to sum all of that up, there will be physical distancing. Where physical distancing is not possible indoors, there will be a requirement for face coverings. Their entertainment will happen in the atrium. They want everybody to wear the face coverings during that. No seats at the bar, no face coverings at the restaurants, and limited capacity pools, water slides, the gym, the spa. It's all going to be about physical distancing. Now, we've sat around with people here at our house 6 feet apart, and we've been able to socialize and interact at that distance. not a big deal. It's not going to be the same as everybody piling into a booth or a seating area in a, like a promenade area, but at least it's doable. I would cruise under these conditions. Nothing here jumps out to me and says I would not cruise. It seems like everything that I like to do on a cruise is available with some sort of physical distancing or some sort of mask requirement. The interesting thing, none of this says you're wearing a mask 24 hours a day. It's just being smart. If you can distance, you don't have to wear the mask. If you can't distance, cover your face. It's doable. I think it's doable. The health plan reiterates some of the stuff we covered in the embarkation, providing health information, temperature taken without contact, team of doctors available to verify the symptoms, daily health and temperature check for all crew members, as well as tests on embarkation and at regular intervals on board. So one of the challenges with this would be crew members going from ship to ship, not being tested. Here we have crew members with health and temperature checks every day, and then virus checks at embarkation and every few days. So it seems like a lot, but at least they're trying to make sure that the crew is good. Staffed up with doctors and nurses on board, ships are equipped with the latest test diagnostic devices for immediate evaluation of suspected cases. Here's the big one. The company said it will arrange disembarkation, medical care, and travel home for the guests as soon as possible if the disease is confirmed. So the cruise line's taking that on themselves to get people off the cruise ship if they have it as soon as possible. That language is a little scary in there. Running at reduced capacity, Aida said it has sufficient options for necessary individual isolation in the hospital or cabins provided. All right, the biggest concern for me when cruising resumes is what happens in the event of outbreak. I think everybody accepts the fact that there's no situation where it's not going to get back on a cruise ship. So the question is, what happens if someone gets infected on the cruise ship? The good thing about reduced capacity is there are more spots for isolation, and it does sound like they're developing plans for how to respond if somebody does get sick and needs to get off the cruise ship. I want to see how that works out, honestly. In this section here, that's the only thing that concerns me. If the as soon as possible means they can't get you off the cruise ship, then that's a fail to me. So I'm still looking for a more robust, specific plan that says, boom, this person has it. This is step A. This is what we do with them. This is how we get them off. Maybe the as soon as possible language shouldn't be scaring me, but I would really love to see here's the 5-step process if we get an outbreak. Person A gets airlifted. They go to this place. This is how they get home. All that kind of stuff. That's the only thing that gives me pause in this section. Again, I took this from Cruise Industry News. They did a great job distilling the points of what Aida's doing. And look, I'll be honest, there's nothing here that if these standards were applied to North American cruises that I would push back against. If this means that we can get cruising again, if this means that the cruise industry can fire up again, I would do it. But that's just me. What about you? Answer the question. Would you cruise like this? You have to type in all caps in the comments to get that same inflection. Would you cruise like this? I don't know. I would love to see your answer in the comments. Hey, thanks for hanging out today. Thanks for watching the show. Please show your support by hitting the like button. Consider subscribing if you're new here. You get this content on the daily. I've got some special content coming up, so make sure that you hit subscribe. I will leave a link here to the replay of Don and Bruce and I talking cruise news last night. And then check out this video. YouTube really thinks you should watch it. There's something special in there. I don't know what it is. Thanks again. This is Tony for Lido Loca. And until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.